Water has receded in the small farming community of Pajaro in Monterey County. Hundreds have been flooded out of their homes after a levee breach, and there is still no telling when they'll be able to go back home. So our Max Darrow, he traveled to Pajaro today. He spent the day with a man who just couldn't bear to leave his home behind and is now living in an evacuation zone.
There are still some places where you can find standing water here in the town of Pajaro, but for the most part, the floodwaters have completely receded. There are families and people who chose not to evacuate, and they tell me they hope their little town comes back to life sooner than later. One of those people is Marcos Perez.
Well, Pajaro is a good, loving community.
It isn't easy for him to walk through the community he's called home for nearly 20 years.
Oh man, this street right here, it's always busy.
When it looks and feels like a ghost town.
Now all I see, look, is nothing but, all I hear is birds right now. And it's kind of heartbreaking to see the community like this.
He and his family are among those in Pajaro who chose not to evacuate after the levee breach that resulted in the community flooding. Their house didn't suffer a ton of damage. They struggled with the idea of spending an undetermined amount of time in a shelter, and Perez says a hotel isn't a feasible option.
I can't be paying rent here and then a hotel that's 200 and something a day. Imagine a week. That's already, we're talking about like 1,000 something.
But life in the evacuation zone isn't easy. They don't have running water. Perez shows us they saved buckets of rainwater, which they boil and use for showering.
We use a bucket this size to shower. It's hard.
Those who left are not allowed back into the community yet, and likely won't be for several more days, says a Monterey County spokesperson. There are cleanup crews and CAL FIRE damage assessment teams working throughout Pajaro. The spokesperson says this is an important step towards determining safe re-entry into the community. Perez hopes that happens sooner than later.
Once we can all come back in, we're going to fix this, and it's going to be a whole different story.
He says the people of Pajaro are resilient, and he has faith his community won't look like this for too long.
Things are going to get better eventually. With our hardworking families, we're going to fix this some way or another.
And Pajaro will return to the vibrant place it once was.